All right, YouTube. We're back at it again. We're here at Aces Card Club to get in some cash games and see what happens. Been doing good lately. Can't really complain too much. Think I've been playing well and kind of running a little bit good. Well, running well, I should say. But yeah, gonna hit this 1-2 game and see what happens. Nothing really to report or anything like that. Just gonna go ahead and play. Let go. Alright, YouTube, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't been here, this is your first time here, my name is Luis. I'm an amateur poker player living in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm gonna go over a session that happened a little while ago. Sorry I haven't been keeping up and posting lately, just been busy, moved, some other stuff, and just really didn't have the time or energy to do it. But I'm back, and here we go. First hand we're gonna go over. We are 8-handed. There's a $5 button straddle. Early position goes ahead and raises to 15. I'm in middle position looking down at pocket fours. Not wanting to have to call off a jam or anything like that because this table is kind of loose aggressive. So I just go ahead and make the call, as well as the big blind and the button. We end up being 4 ways to a flop, which comes 2, 5, 8, all diamonds. Checks to the early position, who ends up c-betting to $30. I think about calling him. I really don't think he hit on this flop. He could have, ace X with the ace of spades or some other nonsense that he probably raised with or from early position, but I don't think he had a flush. I go ahead and make the call and everybody else folds. End up being heads up to a turn, which ends up coming the 8 of spades. Now villain continues betting for $40. For the same reasons I mentioned before, I just go ahead and make the call. I don't see any purpose of raising here. If I do raise and get called, it's always going to be by something better. Also, you get those feelings when you know somebody doesn't really have anything. So I just go ahead and make the smooth call. Still heads up down to the river, which ends up coming at 7 of diamonds. Now having some showdown value. Again, if he tries to bet here, I'm just gonna go ahead and make the call. If he tries to go all in, I will reevaluate and see what happens. But he ends up betting $50, and I'll just go ahead and toss it in before he does, because I ain't gonna fold at this point. And I told him that I have a 4 diamonds, and he says I'm good. So we go ahead and take it down. Let's go. All right, moving on down to the next hand of note. I end up losing a little bit after 3-betting with the ace-5 of hearts variety of hands, completely with the flop, and somebody else shoved on the flop. So end up making a fold, and now we're down to a bomb pot. If you're new to the channel or haven't heard of this fabulous new game that's been popping up all over the world, apparently, anybody who wants to participate ends up paying $5 or whatever they go ahead and designate for an ante. And they usually get anywhere between 2 and I've seen people play up to 6 cards. Ends up being a double board, so there's a top and a bottom, and you end up playing PLO for the rest of the hand, even though if you even have 6 cards. There's no high or low, it's just gonna be a high, and we're off to the races. Top board ends up coming Jack 8-6 with 2 spades. The bottom board ends up coming Queen 10-3 with 2 spades. I have a thing where I don't look at my cards on the flop unless somebody bets. There's too many turns that ends up changing the board, so instead of losing money, I just go ahead and check and rather see a turn for free if I could, and then reevaluate and start betting. But as played, ends up checking to late position, who ends up potting it, which is $35. Small blind calls, the big blind goes ahead and moves all in for 55. And I go ahead and look down at 7, 9, 8, 10, 6. Having way too much potential on the top board as well as somewhat on the bottom board, I go ahead and make the call. And so does late position and the small blind. Ends up being 5 ways to a turn, which ends up coming 2 of hearts up top and a 2 clubs on the bottom. This, of course, probably doesn't help anybody because it ends up checking through. The river ends up coming a 5 of hearts and a king of clubs. The small blind ends up checking to me. I'll go ahead and check to see what hands end up beating me up top, having rivered a straight. And since I don't have anything on the bottom, I'm just gonna be halving the pot. I might as well just make it big. If anything, I would be quartered, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna back down from this, and I'll go ahead and go for full pot, which ends up putting me all in for 310. Late position ends up folding, and the small blind ends up calling. Small blind ends up having ace jack on the bottom board for the nut straight. So we end up chopping this pot, which is always gonna happen and end up being a good result in bump pots.
The 5.
All right, moving right along to the next hand of note. There's an under the gun straddle for $15. I'm in early position, looking down at ace queen off. Now I'll go ahead and raise it $50. I think it is a little small. Should have raised it to 60 or 65. We are in Texas, we are in San Antonio. I feel that that's a little too small, and I didn't want a lot of people to call me, especially me being out of position. But of course, as expected, the button ends up calling, the big blind ends up calling, and so does the straddle. Ends up being Texas heads up 4 ways to a flop, which comes king 4-6 with 2 diamonds. Big blind ends up checking. Under gun looks and it's not having none of that, so he ends up saying no and folds. So now back on me, I'll go ahead and continue betting for $75. Still try to represent a strong hand, ace king, kings, aces, king queen, something in that realm, which ends up making the button tank for a good while. As he's tanking, the big blind out of turn goes ahead and declares that she's going to fold. Please pay attention to the action, guys, gals, women, children. And when it's on you, then you act. Acting out of turn in this actually in my opinion, influenced him to call, knowing that there's not going to be any action behind him. If he calls, there's not going to be a jam or whatnot. So he ends up making a call, and we're heads up to a turn, which ended coming a 2 of spades. Still keeping my foot on the gas and still trying to represent a good hand. I'll go ahead and decide to bet a good hefty amount, a good $100. Sounds about right. After tanking again for a good long while, he ends up saying, let's gamble, ends up making a call. He still ends up having a little behind, and when the ace of hearts ends up coming down on the river, making a pair with a good kicker, I'll go ahead and move all in on this one, thinking that if he had an ace, he would call. If he had 2 pairs stronger, I think I would have heard from him on the turn, him shoving all in, especially after I bet $100, but he only just called. So he tanks for a little bit, ends up making the call, and he shows pocket 7s. So we end up getting lucky on the river, and we end up talking a little bit about the hand afterwards.
Or would she have stayed in all the way?
No. No, you've been good, and he was making good calls.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I was trying to say, like, I had an over.
You were trying to.
I had an overpair and just trying to take. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You really didn't want him to call.
Yeah.
But good river did for you. You know what I mean?
5. Start 5. Thank you. I just, like I said, I just got lucky. At the end, I'm pretty sure he was trying to get a flush draw or something like that.
That's what I told him. I told him a flush draw, bro. When he was like, let's gamble.
Yeah.
That's what I was like. He's on a flush draw. But then again, he's a side patient, so. No, I'm serious.
Just a few orbits later, when this hand happened, there's 3 limps in front of me. Goes to the button, who ends up making it $10. I'm in the small blind, look down at Jack 9 offsuit.
Well, I mean,
I decided to go make the call. This should be a fold, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, should be a fold. Being in the worst position with a marginal hand is never a good reason. But of course, do I listen to reason? Nope. So I'll go ahead and make the call, and only the big blind ends up making the call. Ends up being 3 ways to a flop, which comes ace jack 3. I went ahead and checked in the dark. I was going to check anyways, being out of position. The big blind ends up checking, and the button continues with a $30 bet. I just go ahead and make the call, and we're heads up to a turn, which ends up coming a 5 of diamonds. Again, gotta check in this position either way, and the button ends up checking for a long time. Well, I thought he was, but he never heard me check. So as soon as he ends up finding out, he moves all in for 137 effective. I think about it for a long time. What could he have? Can he have trips, 2 pair? Could be on a draw. What would he be doing this with? I haven't played with this particular player, so I don't know how he plays. Maybe a little bit of winner's tilt, or being dumb and not disciplined, or all of the above. I'll go ahead and decide to gamble and end up making a call. River ends up coming to 8 of spades, and he flips over ace jack offsuit. So we end up losing a good amount on this hand. Should have been more disciplined, should not have been stupid, should have, would have, could have, but didn't. All right, it's that time of the night again for a bomb pot. This time we end up getting 5 cards again, 7-handed, and we're off to see 2 boards. Top board ends up coming 5, 2, 4. Bottom board ends up coming 2, king, 3. Both all rainbows. Ends up surprisingly checking 3 on the flop. So going to a turn, which ends up coming a 3 of clubs up top and a 10 of clubs on the bottom. Ends up checking to me. I don't ever check my cards, so it was a surprise to me when I end up seeing queen, 8, 10, 4, 6, which I end up turning a straight and having a pair with a flush draw on the other board. So with that information, I'll go ahead and bet 20. The button calls, and so does both early position players. Now ends up being 4 ways to a river, which ends up coming a 6 of hearts up top and a 5 of clubs on the bottom. Both end up being kind of good rivers for me, having some blockers for the straight up top and having a flush on the bottom. Could be beat by a higher flush or a higher straight, but not going to be scared of monsters underneath the bed. So I end up potting it for value. Everybody ends up folding except for an early position player who ends up having the same straight up top. So with that, he ends up getting quartered. So at least get half the pot plus then a little bit of the top one as well. After that hand, there's really not too much to speak of. Just some folded hands, some hands that I end up raising and end up winning the pot right then and there. But for the most part was card dead right after that. So I go ahead and get up and cash out for $635. All right, in for 200, out for 600, so, or 635, something like that. So I think I played okay, was patient, got lucky sometimes. I don't know, really nothing to report, just was winning a little bit. So my study's been paying off. I don't call as light, well, at least one hand I did, but I don't call as light like I did anymore. And just trying to play solid poker. I cashed out a little early so I can play in the 1200 guaranteed tournament. I do better at tournaments, so we're gonna see what happens. But yeah, was happy to play cash and see if I can continue on this winning streak. See if I can do a double win just like I did at Rustler's Wednesday from today. All right, let's go. Started playing the tournament. I don't know if it's winner's tilt or I can't make the switch between cash and tournaments that quickly, but we didn't do so hot in this tournament. Ended up playing very loose, very stupidly. And once I made a stupid move with King 5 offsuit, I knew I wasn't really into this tournament. So ended up playing it out and nothing really happened. Stay tuned for my thoughts of the end of the session. And as usual, I hope you enjoyed the hands. Oh, what the fuck? At least give me a fucking chance to think. Damn. Fine then. I don't want to fucking hit my flush. All right. So we out. I didn't buy it back in once I did that stupid ass move with a King 5 offsuit.
yeah, wasn't gonna happen. I knew my mind wasn't set up. My mind wasn't right in the right place to be playing a tournament afterwards. Sorry, it's dark. I'm trying to walk to my truck. But yeah, once I did that move, I knew I wasn't in the right place. I'm not gonna waste money and waste time because I wasn't in the right place. So it is what it is. At least I won real big in a cash game. Kind of re-rolled that then. What else? Hope you're liking the videos. I'm trying to do a little bit more cash. I'm still playing the low stakes tournament. I will try to play a bigger one here soon, and let's see what happens. But until then, if you like the videos, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I'll see y'all later.